Breaking news, breaking news. We got markets on the move. Welcome to ATI Pro Media. We are powered by advanced trading. Boy, do we have a show for you. Can you guys hear me? Connor B, Joey G, Rick, breaking news on the screen. Margin calls will have to be met. Phones are ringing from the margin department, getting a hold of people. Connor B, you there, buddy? Bring him in the show. Let's not waste any time. White on white again, the white shirt with the white background. What's gotten into you, son? How was your weekend?
It was good, and you know why I wore the white shirt? You can't see it, but I wore my black shorts.
Because you give up, like in Rocky when they throw on the white towel?
I'm a bottom up dresser, pants on, then what matches with the pants. So
I like
I
that.
assume you got the white pants on.
Whatever Gina lays out for me gets worn, like the animals. All right. All joking
get into
aside,
it.
we have a market move. I have to introduce my chart to the show, but we're gonna have an interesting show. The markets are bouncing back. I know that sounds weird. Dow only down 750. Hey, Dow's bounced 500. Last week we were talking and I said, I'm seeing something that's extremely, extremely disturbing. And you said, well, tell us why. And I guess the why was when the 10-year note goes from 420 to 380 in 3 days. That's not like everything's okay. That's imagine being in a hospital and you're hooked to a bed and all your vitals don't look good. And so what the yield is of the bonds, what Dr. Copper's doing, what all these things are doing are your vitals. And so the patient looked okay. You're like, there's Bob. He looks good, but his blood pressure was screaming or his sugar was 500. And that's what the markets were telling us. So were there signs? Yeah, there were.
And
Is this ugly?
Rehashing Friday's show, right?
Was that Friday or Thursday?
I think it was Friday.
Sure.
Yeah, it was Friday. We were talking about that. You were kind of sounding the alarm, talking about, and then the Nikkei index was the headline.
That's
Guess
what it was.
It's still the headline, and it's
Mhm.
still the main topic. Everything we really talked about, you talked about, Tommy. We're seeing it come through, and now it's going to be how's the day going to close, right? As you said,
Absolutely.
Dow bouncing off the lows, but just to walk through, right? The leader to me is going to be the Nikkei index had its worst day since Black Monday. We've had a 2-day drop, something like 18.5%, and then circuit breakers were triggered, trading was halted, and so from there we're seeing the effects ripple across other markets.
Yeah, and we'll talk for a few more minutes, then we'll get into markets. So, Mr. Rick, just stand by here as we continue to talk our way through this. When the markets crash overnight, and this is very similar to what they did at COVID, we talk in our industry about the VIX, but there's people like if you're out there and you want to sell the Dow Jones down 150, 175, you could have sold thousands of Dow Jones futures down a few hundred last night. But when you look at the world global stock market, it's worth trillions and trillions and trillions. Selling 200 Dow futures market isn't going to get you hedged up. And so we've spent 4 years straight exploding in value since the COVID lows, which came in January, February, March, April of 2020. So over the last 4 years, which is many, many months, 48, 50 months of extreme buy the dip, sell the rip, whatever. When the world decides they want to get out in 48 hours, aka that Thursday, Friday, Monday move, Tommy Grisafi can sell a few Dow futures. The world need to sell 500,000 market or more Dow futures, S&P and NASDAQ than there are open interest. When you look at futures, you always have options. And watch out for this word, we got creative. Because when young guys like you who you've seen a lot now because you've lived through COVID volatility and stuff. But then it was a great lesson to learn that the Dow was approaching 30,000, went to 16,000. Now it's at close to 40. Well, it was at least. It still is. It's 39. When people get creative and volatility, just a few weeks ago, I don't know if we have a volatility chart up, but you got to stay with me, folks.
Yeah. Keep going. I got one for you.
Okay. Volatility was at 15. Volatility is what the price of insurance is on anything. How hard does someone want to buy a put? How hard does someone want to buy a call? What will someone get paid to sell that premium? So in the world of insurance, whether it be home, auto, futures, or options, you have the underlying product, your home. and you have the price to insure your home. The only analogy I can give you all, my home costs whatever, just make up a number, $5,000 a year to protect a home. Overnight or within 48 hours, the price of insuring that home went to at least 25,000. And so the price of insuring goods based off of AKA the S&P 500, the biggest, most capitalized stocks in America, quadrupled. It may have went up more, but if you were short VIX at 15 and all of a sudden it hit as high as you said in the 60s and
Mhm.
came in a few points of yeah, so let's go over all these debacles. This debacle here, folks, if you could see in the dead center of the chart, if I had
That's
to guess, that's 08, 09,
yep,
when George Bush was president, right as Barack Obama became president.
yep.
Full disclaimer, I know this one. This is going to be interesting that I know this. Do you know what the low was in the S&P when this number up here was up here? I know the number. You ready?
Go.
666. When the VIX went here, the low that day was 666 in the S&P 500. The S&P 500 now is at 5,200. It was a lot higher, but I mean, we're nowhere near that. Now, then we go down. We've had other spikes of volatility. You see these spikes. They don't last long, but they last long enough to break you because margin calls will be made. Now you have the spike of COVID, which we hit, what's that say, 82, 83?
Yeah.
And then you have today's what's a good word? Debacle. And we went from extremely low VIX. There's a guy I follow on Twitter. I just recently met him, and he was tweeting a few weeks ago, you can't buy enough volatility. Like with the Dow Jones, S&P, and NASDAQ at all-time highs and volatility with a 13, 14, 15. He said you can't physically, you don't have enough money to buy as much vol as you need if what he thought was going to happen. I don't even know if the guy trades, right? Just one of those talking heads. Anyway,
It's amazing that this past weekend that we're in the third highest volatility index compared to those major market moves. Tommy, is that a testament to how big a deal is it? A big of a deal this is, or is it just how much volatility is increased with the Nasdaq increasing so much, with the S&P being so much more?
great question. Two-part question. Number one, never in the history of the world has there been as much money created as the last 4 years. And with that amount of created money, it gives people opportunity to want to make more money. It's just greed. Like if my 401k has $1 million and I wish it had 2 million, what can we do to make more, right? And you see that in farmers. You're like, what can we do to make a buck? Well, stop by losing a buck would be my advice. But in this case, we seriously hit funny money season, and although inflation stunk for some, if you're rich, inflation was rich people don't tell you inflation's the single greatest gift ever in the history of the world to rich people. It's the top 10, 15, 20% kill it during inflation. It's the bottom 80% of the world, which is a big number, absolutely get hammered during inflation. So don't worry. If you're poor out there, you didn't lose any money today because you don't have any money. And that sounds like a really nasty thing to say, but it's true. Do you know a single poor person whose 401k got hurt today?
No.
They don't have a 401k. They don't own Illinois farmland. They're not involved in corn, wheat, and
Sure.
beans. And so with that, that's where we're at.
And
And
speaking,
great question, but silly season
thank you.
hit. Yeah. And so
And
all this stuff comes together kind of like look at it like the solar eclipse. We only get one of them every 28, 38 years. But when the stars align, we just got dark for 3 minutes. And that darkness was today's open. When all those markets that were closed, we were open. Like guys like us could trade S&Ps and stuff. But the physical market, right? Let's take it back a little bit. We're going to go real long today, but that's okay. I got time. On Friday, right after the bell, around 3 o'clock, 3:30, after stock futures close at 4, it came out that Warren Buffett had sold over half of his Apple. Well, he was very late to get into Apple and started accumulating Apple, say 7, 10 years ago, and became, if not the largest shareholder, one of the largest shareholders behind major hedge funds and stuff. It came out that Warren Buffett had sold half his Apple shares over the last few months and never in the history has held so much cash. He likes holding cash because he can still make 5%, or at least he could have till the last few days. He can make 4.5%. And with that, he thinks it's way better risk reward to just take the 5 than what you just had Intel lose 30% in a day. So it's, I hate to say a sure thing, but investing in United States government bonds are pretty doggone close to a sure thing unless the United States government goes broke, which people could draw you up that scenario. So on Friday afternoon, it came out that Warren Buffett had liquidated an incredible amount of his portfolio. And I want to say the number 270, 280, 280 billion in cash. Imagine having 280 billion in cash making 5%. Not a bad deal. That triggered last night's selling open. Then the Nikkei followed through. Then world markets followed through. And we're not the only game in town. The German DAX is a huge stock market. Markets in Germany, it's called the FTSE. You know, you have the French stock market, the FTSE, the DAX. The German stock market's called or English stock market's called something else. So you have your English stock market, your French, the whole Euro countries. Obviously, China's China. They're going to have their own problems. So with that, all these stars collided, and it happened quickly. And when it happens, I promise you, the guy in the margin department doesn't care about who you are. All he or she is trying to do is save their job and save their firm. So people like us are like, God, I hope our firm's okay. And it is. But these are the type of moves that break firms. And so the other rumor was over the weekend, and I don't want to mention names, but AKA Trading had liquidated a huge Bitcoin portfolio or crypto portfolio. And that's why when you came in this morning, Bitcoin was down over 13,000. And I know plenty of people own one Bitcoin. You start the day down 13,000, kind of stinks. Okay.
Right.
Is that a decent explanation of what I think just happened?
Yeah, that was great. I want to add some color to it and just look, we're looking at the magnificent 7 stocks, right? Your Nvidias, your Apples, your Googles. Tommy, they're set to shed $1 trillion, right? Apple's a big one, but Nvidia's pulling back. So it just
With a
gives you
T.
a testament.
T,
With the T.
trillion.
With the
T.
T. I was typing that headline in and I automatically went to billion. It's no. It's trillion. Set to shed 1 trillion. And so yeah, I think that summed it up good. The other thing, Tommy, I think we want to talk about if you're ready to move to it is when do we start talking about emergency rate cut, right? The other big headline that we saw is that 2-year, 10-year inversion is gone. And so I just saw a headline that said there's like a 70% chance they think we're going to see an emergency rate cut this week. And so you talked about that Friday and that, a bunch of major rate cuts, not necessarily a good thing, right? We've been cheering for them to cut rates, but emergency rate cuts, right? There's a reason they have to do that. And that's because
To
the
provide
economy,
liquidity.
the stock market. Yes.
Right. To provide liquidity. I'll never forget during 08 when you saw that VIX spike. If you go back and watch the interview of the Treasury Secretary, and he was a tall, skinny guy, bald. His name was Paulson, and they asked him, "What made you react so drastically?" He said, "My friend, the president, or the CEO of GE, called and said, 'It's Tuesday. I don't think I can make payroll on Friday. What could you do to add liquidity to the system?'" And so the very move that's creating this debacle is too much liquidity. Yet the thing they're going to do to fix it is provide more liquidity, which in the back end, many would argue, could get you a little boost of inflation again. Doesn't surprise me at all to see corn up 1 right now. Let's go real quick to LaSalle Street, Wall Street. We had a super long open, but it's very important we talk about this and stay calm. Let's go to LaSalle Street. All right, D's corn, good news, up 1. Ring the bell. Soybeans down 2.5, meal down 34, oil down 10, wheat down 6, border trade wheat's down 6, Casey down 2, hard red spring down 3, live cattle down 250. That's in the August. We're moving on to other months here. I should let me adjust those cattle real quick as I'm going through them because I want to give you a more accurate quote. Ock cattle down 330. We should be moving our board down to Ock. And I'll go to Ock feeders. Also, Ock feeders down 520. Lean hogs down 80. Gold down 34. That one's kind of caught me, but when people are looking for money, they're going to liquidate all types of things. Let's hop over to Wall Street. We were saying gold down 34. Silver down 120. Gold was up 25 at one point last night. 2s, 5s, 10s, 30s. Bond markets had exploded higher. They have since come off, but all the bonds are up. You could have bought bonds down last night. Like there was time to move. Again, night markets and liquidity, saying you could have bought a 1 lot, a 5 lot, a 10 lot. If you had 50,000 to buy market, no, not so much. You need the liquidity of the daytime. So, having a position on and being able to get out of a position are two different things. 2s, 5s, 10s, 30s, all up, coming down though from where they were as interest rates are going lower. I'm not sure where the 10-year is right now. I could look over at my TV, but if I had to guess, I'm going to go with that. The 10-year at some point today probably hit a 370, maybe even a 365. We'll get a quote for that. But moving forward, crude oil down 80. It was down more. Natural gas below 1950. Dow Jones still down 1,000, folks. This isn't no messing around. But if I said Dow Jones was at 39,000 and during COVID it was at 17,000, you'd say, wow, it's rallied a lot. So keep things in perspective. Dow Jones down 1,000, Nasdaq down 600. It was down 1,000 itself. Nasdaq halfway back. S&P down 155. When you start talking about, to me, S&P down 50 is a big deal. 100's a bad day. 150 is like, hello, we got a problem. 220 like it hit today is why the VIX went to 64. Bitcoin down about 10,000. We're going to quote it up at 53,000. These Bitcoin bulls will be looking to buy some. Dr. Copper down a little bit. All right, those are your quotes. Corn's up 2.5 just from the time I quote it. First thing I thought when I saw the stock market break today was anyone who has anything on who wants to get out will be covering that. To our clients, the 200 of you watching this, the funds are massively short corn and other commodities. If they wanted to cover that to get cash for some other position they have, or investors who are involved in CTAs are calling everyone they know saying, I don't know what the heck you have on, but just get me out and I want my money back, right? So the famous, you've done a great job for years. I'm scared for one day. I want my money back. When they say they want their money back, you have to get each person out of those trades, which is a lot of buy orders for corn. Wouldn't surprise me at all to see corn have a great week this week with what's going on in the outside markets. Connor B, read off the headlines, sir.
Yeah, well, just talking on grains, right? This show especially is going to be a financial show, but we do love agriculture, and I think that's a good testament. Is right? Is the fundamentals aren't really going to change this week. Crop looks great. We got a report Monday, but just seeing the money flow is we could see that short covering rally that we could hope for. But I'll preface that with saying, do they really have a reason to get long corn other than to just move money around? So we can hope that we see a short covering rally, hope that outside markets somehow influence grains, but still, right, have that on your calendar for that USDA report Monday. We'll save that talk for another show. Headlines, here we go. Pop them up, Joe. What one haven't we talked about?
Yeah. All right.
Talks of the emergency Fed rate cut. Like I said, I think it jumped up something like 70% this week that we could see an emergency rate cut. Friday, we were talking about it's a near certainty. It's almost a guarantee. I'll go on a limb and say it's almost a guarantee. We're going to see a rate cut in September. It's just going to be how big. Now the talk is, are we going to see an emergency rate cut given the stock market? Tommy, what do you think? I mean, we're recovering slightly. Does that mean that they could stay a little bit patient, right? The alarm isn't quite as loud as it was 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago, or can we still expect to see a rate cut this week, you think?
It's really important where we close. The Fed can interject in the markets. The Fed can buy stuff. They've done it before. Farmers often think the Fed, buys or sells corn or something. I've never met a broker who said, yeah, it was the Fed on the other side of that corn trade. But when it comes to stock markets and liquidity and bond markets, they absolutely could interject. Now, this is interesting. This just came on my phone. Breaking, Biden's top, doggone it, my phone just went off. Okay, Biden's top economic advisor, Gene Sperling, announced he is leaving the White House today. Great timing, bud. And then it's got the guy with the faceplant emoji. All right, good job there on Gene. Way to be a team player. I don't even know who Gene is, but looks like when the going gets tough, Gene gets going. And when you see stuff like that, maybe they see some cracks that are interesting. I'll tell you this, from a political standpoint, President Trump's going to go around and say, listen, see what happened? President Biden can't run for president because he's having troubles. Our new candidates this, our new vice president candidates that. None of this happened before me. And what he will say was, we had the strongest economy ever before COVID, and so I wouldn't be surprised to see him go up in the polls. A down stock market won't be a good look for any new administration, but they'll use this against each other because right now this bad price action is happening under the Biden administration. Is that correct?
Yep, absolutely.
So we'll
So,
see if we have debates or anything else. Hey, good news. Soybeans are up, corn's up, grains are
yep.
rallying. Doesn't surprise me at all.
I have a
Um,
good, when we see these big market moves, it's always interesting to see the reports that trading platforms are down. So right now,
oh, yes, sir.
platforms reportedly down. I think they're back up, but Charles Schwab, TD Ameritrade, Vanguard, E-Trade, Fidelity, and we had a little issues with the CME. It's back up and
I
running.
see that. Scotty
I,
M texted us that. Yeah.
Yeah. So always interesting when we see these big moves, right? I go back and remember with GameStop and Robinhood
Oh,
just
yeah.
halting trading and stopping. So always interesting to see.
So let's touch on that. Stay right there. Don't move. When
Not going anywhere.
Charles Schwab and all them changed that, we're not talking about them freezing one stock. We're talking about freezing the whole
Right.
platform overnight.
Right.
So if you were scared, woke up like an old guy like me to go to the bathroom at 3 a.m. and said, I want to sell 10 of something market, who knows where you get filled, right? So they froze platforms, which couldn't be in my opinion, the worst thing you could do is that when you need the liquidity, they're freezing the liquidity. Now, liquidity doesn't necessarily come from the average Joe getting up and buying 2 shares of NVIDIA in their underwear. It comes from major institutions, and those major institutions have become sellers, not buyers, and that's the problem. So yes, when you talk about CME had a little glitch, all these trading platforms, you don't know how much your trading platform could take till it's tested. So besides throwing out all these wild quotes for, we think simple, like I read the markets and I read 20 things. There's tens and tens and tens of thousands of things when you get into Bitcoin, crypto, stocks. Every option and every strike of every stock has to be quoted. And those quotes jam, and it you talk about high frequency trading and Edward Scissorhand type of price action. Sometimes those servers get tested, and I imagine that's what happened there.
Right. And so
real quick, hold on, I want to talk a little bit more, but wait, there's more. A lot of these platforms have like auto execution. So you have 10 grand in your account, you have something on, and if your account gets below 2,500, they don't call you and ask you like the old days, like we would do, or we say our client's good for it. I filled out a know your customer form, and if they don't pay, I'll pay. They just get you out. So in the new world of finance, many people fill out stuff from all over the world. They have a name, number, social security. If they're from America, if they're from outside somewhere in America, they're just filling out. The guy at Charles Schwab doesn't know who Franco is from Italy. He just knows he had 10 grand in his account. Now he has 2,500. He's getting them out. And that's a GMO order. Get me out. There's some fancy orders in GMO, but nonetheless, it's non-emotional. They don't call you. They don't ask you. They just get you out. That's what I wanted to say. That happened this morning, by the way. I don't know if to Franco, but someone got it real bad. Questions, comments, peanut gallery. We're going to go long today.
I think
Love
we got
to give out a flag. It's very quiet. Luke.
Here we go. They could cover, but would the funds continue to pile onto a winning position that being short grains has been? Luke, that's a great testament. We can hope for a short covering rally, but remember that the farmer long is still. Reuters had an article today that talked about just that give up marketing, right? That 23 crop, it's going to town. It is getting sold because we've got to make room for this big 24 crop. And so, right, the funds can cover some longs. We can see that. Don't forget that the farmer long is still as big as it's been in 20, 30 years.
Mm-hmm. Real quick, folks, I just want to tell you about ATI Pro Media Premium. We love doing this. We're giving you way too much for free, but I think you deserve it, right? The American farmer, the rancher, folks who we're friends and family with out there in the internet world, you deserve a good live show without commercials, although we're going to have our own internal commercial just because we can. Okay, on Premium Friday, we had the one and only, the land talker, Mr. Jim Rothermick. Jim kind of gave us a little heads up on what's going on with land prices. Saturday, we brought it home with Don Wick. Don Wick just talked markets and politics. We talked about this crash, the Nikkei crash and the market crash. We were filming around 12:30 on Friday. We got some of this color commentary in there. If you'd like to see that exclusive content, you need to subscribe to ATI Pro Media, be a premium subscriber. This morning, we kicked it off with weather. We haven't even talked about this yet. East Coast and a drought. Not anymore.
Nope.
Up to 30 inches of moisture hitting the whole East Coast. I did read a tweet last night. I can't confirm this is real because I won't have time to count every raindrop. One guy said, aka a guy on the interweb, said that up to 40 trillion with a T, 40 trillion gallons of water could fall over the East Coast over the next week. That's going to take care of any drought, and it's going to get messy there. That is ATI Pro Media, www.ATI Pro Media Premium. If you ever need anything, email us info@atipromedia.com. Call us 1-855-737-FARM. Let's continue to show. We got to look at a couple charts, don't you think?
Pull them up. What are you
Well, I'm
thinking?
not quite ready yet, so start talking. You just start yapping, and I'll get the charts up.
Sure. Well, what are we looking for first? Let's check, get them up, look and see probably what the Nasdaq did. I don't know how. Here's the real test. How can you pull up the Nikkei index, Tommy?
No, I do not have a Bloomberg terminal or anything hooked to this. This is just my
Sure.
personal account, but this is Dow Jones. And I promise you, no matter what we pull up, it's going to look familiar. Now, if we look at a 10-minute chart of this real quick, you're going to see that it bounced a lot. This is whatever a lot is, right? Please, futures and options have risk. I don't know what a lot is in this, but we were down to get my bifocals out. We were down to call it 38,600, and we're now at I'd say we bounced a lot, right? We bounced 300-400 points here in the Dow. It's all relative, right? If you're caught long, we haven't bounced nearly enough. If you're caught short, you're mad we bounced at all. All right, let's go through them one by one. We're going to look at dailies of our indices.
Sure. Can you look at the VIX too? That'd be fun to.
I don't have the VIX on this either. That's a different platform that that's at the CBOE. You can trade VIX futures, and I'll tell you why. I've never gotten in trouble trading VIX futures, but I know someone who has. And so here's the S&P 500. This is a daily just to keep like, oh, is it bad? Is it over? Well, let's cool our jets here. Let's look at a monthly.
Put it in perspective. Yep.
Yeah, put it in perspective. Should anyone, I'm not going to give any stock advice on this. You do whatever the heck you need to do with your own investment portfolio. Is all I could see though on a monthly. We are way above averages. And when you look at a monthly, this thing's barely started to come down. So switch that around. If you do think stocks are going a lot lower, then it's just starting. That's what should scare you. Are we having a bad day? Yes. But I want to go back to that one more time. I want to show you what a big deal it is, what we've done since COVID. And 2020 rally, we talk about, remember this when we went down here during COVID, March of 20, we were trading a 2,500 S&P. We have more than doubled. That is like $3 corn turning into $6 corn. And now we're at 560. That, if you want to talk in corn terms, right? If you take this price and say, that's not the S&P, that's 250 corn, and it went to $6 corn. Well, it's starting to come down. If you're a long-term bear, this thing's just starting. If you're long-term bull, this is a buying opportunity. We'll let you know in next 30, 60, 90 days which one was right. But you're on your own here. We give color commentary, but you do whatever you need to do.
When I see the long-term S&P charts, I think it was either Warren Buffett or maybe it was Joseph Bog, a guy that founded Vanguard. He said, time in the market beats timing the market every time when we're looking at the stock market.
Look at you all smart quoting people this morning. My Lord, I'm very
I got more.
Oh, but wait, there's more. All right, now this one's a little ugly here. This is the NASDAQ on a daily. Well, we're below the green. That's the 100. And we kissed. I did not know that. The NASDAQ just kissed the 200-day moving average. Very important that this holds up and things go okay. And we'll see what happens. Let's talk to our folks, right? Let's go corn real quick. D's corn. It's actually bouncing still. It's still bouncing from
had a good day.
Levels. Yeah,
had a good day Friday, and so we've got D's corn still up $0.015.
Yeah, just talk about how cheap, affordable corn was during this little debacle last night here. $3.96. Someone scooped up some corn and has a 9-cent. Whoever bought that has a 9-cent winner. Whoever sold it said, "What the heck was I thinking?" Corn up 1.5. Nothing would surprise me in any of these markets. Futures and options have risk. We should have that going at all times on this thing. But it's Adult Swim only, folks. This really is. This is Adult Swim only. Why is that? Margin department's on the phone, and they got your number. They're coming for you.
Soybeans are the same story, right? Low at 10.15 right now, trying to stay positive, right at 10.28, no futures.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, and soybeans, by the way, full story. They were up really nice when we went to bed, up 8 or 9. I I don't wanna misspeak, and we should ask someone a heck of a lot smarter than us, but 30 inches of water doesn't make a soybean crop on the East Coast, right? A little too much, Connor, from your farmer sense?
that's a lot of rain that comes really fast. If we're looking at
It'll
just
absorb it because our ground's it's I mean, that could become that could be a little story
that's a
here.
lot. But then the other testament is that East Coast, that North Carolina, right? Luke's been talking about it. They've had issues all year. So right, not enough rain, and then they're going to get all more rain than they can handle in the next week. And
So
so,
to sum it up, if you drowned out a dead soybean, did anyone really die, right?
did the needle move at all?
Right,
I would argue
right.
no. But um,
Yeah.
yeah, and then
Real
looking
quick. Yes, sir.
go. I was just going to touch on. I mean, you had Mick Carr on weather and
Mhm.
talking about it. Again, this shows we're mostly focused on the financials, but my gosh, Tommy, here in Central Illinois, we don't need any more rain. Corn crop looks fantastic. Back to you.
Yeah. I also talked to some other friends and clients around. I kind of shot a text out to clients and said, please tell me who has the horrible looking crop. I know y'all in southern Minnesota, northern Iowa have a problem, and they're like okay to it, okay with it, like come to terms with it. But yeah, they're like, well, actually, what's not drowned out looks really good. And with that, we did say something last week. I don't remember if it was on premium or this show, but an incredible amount of bearish news is out. Like I can't sit here. I watched someone, and I don't even know where it was on Twitter sphere, talk about all the bearish things and why we might go lower. And if he knows it and he's got a net worth of negative quarter million, then the market knows it, right? And so sometimes when everything looks bearish, you want to be a buyer. When the stock market's at all-time highs and everything looks great and the VIX is trading 14 and Dow's going up 300-400 a day and everything looks good, you might want to take a little risk off. You want to buy dips, sell rips in the investment world. What you all do in the commodity world is different because some people buy a stock and never get out. The American farmer grows a new crop every year. The world farmer grows a new crop twice a year. So what we do and how we talk and how we manage risk for corn, wheat, beans, cattle has a little different time frame, but the same scenario there.
In
By the
theory,
way,
yep.
cattle having a pretty bad day today. Cattle down 350 and feeders down 600. I do have, and I don't want to say the amount because it's just not right to do, but I'm not a big cattle broker, but the guys I have who enjoy hedging, I am shocked at how much their account has went up in the last week. Now, granted, a week or two ago, they were also making margin calls because cattle were going up and up. They're big boys. They were sending in the money. They were selling out as far as they could on the board. And the liquidity, unfortunately, in cattle, we don't have enough liquidity to, if the Dow did have caught like a minus 2,500 today, there ain't enough liquidity in the world to handle the pressure that cattle market could come under, Connor.
Yeah. Well said. Hey, let's jump into comments.
Yeah, let's do it.
Here we go. Buckeye Farm Boy. It will take a bullish USDA report the 12th, like all the inventory grain to grain we have on hand disappear, and they planted acres and harvest acres and equities meltdown and put cash into commodities. I believe
I don't think that's a question. I think that's a statement.
that is. There's no
boy, ring the bell.
And
I see where he's going with that.
That's like a movie that came out in the early 2000s called The Perfect Storm. That's a lot of things we need to go right, Buckeye Farm Boy. And it'd be nice.
How every time I watch that movie. I cannot watch that without getting dizzy.
Let's get a couple inches in Southern Ohio for you as well, and then we can rock and roll. Okay, what's next? So if this is what to expect one side of the election, the other side is talking massive tariffs again. Without CCC payments, isn't this same side of the coin? Hate talking politics. I'm looking for a way out of these economic malfeasance, and I really don't see
there. Big word on
that. Did I nail it? I kind of
think
panicked
you did
there.
Well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. Well, again, we got a question there, but we also got a statement.
Yeah, Gary, it needs to be spoken. I mean, that's why we put our phone number out there, and you can. We're gonna have a way pretty soon. You can text us directly here on the show, switching up phone numbers. But yeah, I mean, it's okay to talk politics. It affects your life. This is America. The reason America was founded because we used to be over at Britain and we didn't like it, and so we fought to be on our own. Now we're all here together, and we're still fighting, having that verbal confrontation without anyone being hurt, of course, to have an intelligent conversation. The word intelligent and conversation sometimes don't go together as well. But as a farmer, a rancher, someone out in agriculture, you should be extremely vocal right now on your opinions and continue to educate people on where their food comes from. Before, if you don't start making decisions and taking actions, other people are going to take those actions for you. Great comment. Thanks for saying something.
Yep. Sandy ground out east, North Carolina. Okay, so hopefully we can take a little rain and run with it. But yeah, here's the testament of what they're seeing in North Carolina: flood early, late planting, driest June in 100 years, and then we're back to a flood. So tough season. You couple that with you keep hearing us talk about the great growing conditions in the Midwest and these lower commodity prices. I'm sure it's tough, Luke. Honestly, we need a couple days of sunshine here. Cotton waist high in places. We'll definitely need some more growth regulator sprayed on it when it's dry. Plenty of blooms and balls on ours. Good to hear.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Tom Grisafi, Valparaiso, Indiana. Connor B, Assumption, Illinois. Talking markets. We got a debacle going here. Dow down 1,000. Buckle up, Buttercup. We're going to have some volatility. Real quick before we go, we're not leaving yet. We're going to give a little time to just promote ourselves and run our own ad. Yes, we said this wasn't sponsored, but it is sponsored by Advanced Trading, the mothership. Mr. Brick, if you could find that ad, go ahead and click that. Who we are at ATI Pro Media Premium for more goodies on that. I don't see Welcome to ATI Pro Media, powered by Advanced Trading. We're a financial channel that loves agriculture. For just $1 a day, you'll receive advanced trading research, actionable text, and a minimum of 6 videos a week featuring industry experts and insight. Click the button below to subscribe today. Well, click the button, like, subscribe. How do you find us? Tell a friend. Advanced Trading YouTube channel. How do you find us on the premium? www.ati Pro Media Premium. All types of content. We're going to have a bunch of stuff coming out today. While we were visiting, RFD TV texted me. They asked me to be on the Cow Guy this afternoon. I'll be on the Cow Guy tomorrow. I don't know what the heck's going on. Then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'll actually be hosting the Cow Guy. They let anyone do it, apparently. Actually, I am the guy who fills in for Scott. It's an honor to be on this show. It's an honor to be on that show. It's really neat, Connor, to meet people in agriculture, and that I went to Porter County Fair a few weeks ago, and they actually, farmers in our area brought up your name. I like Connor and Brady. They didn't say anything about me, but they said, I like Connor and Brady. I like watching you on the Cow Guy. So people are watching, people are listening. If you didn't know, you could listen to this on Spotify and Apple, and we could use people over there. Want to grab this one real quick?
Yep, Dwayne, completely agree. It's not where we start today, it's where we finish. We talk about that a lot, about how are we going to close? How are we going to see through the day session in outside markets? Grains are a big one, right? It'd be nice. Soybeans right at unchanged in November, bouncing around up a half cent right now. And so that'd be great. We need to see a good finish. Absolutely.
Yeah. And on that smart guy stuff, I don't know the exact time, and we'd have to ask corporate, but intraday margin calls. You remember I say, oh, the phone's ringing, there's margin calls. The CME calls intraday margin calls. And so they will be asking for money. I'm going to go with around 11 o'clock, 11:30. Someone could text my phone if they know the exact answer. So sometimes you see the markets go down, they stabilize, but then those intraday margin calls happen. And then that's when those people have to immediately send more money via a wire to ACH, which ACH, you could say you sent the money and who knows if it hit, right? The wire going through the Fed is by far the number one way. So this is Adult Swim only. There will be firms, FCMs, futures clearing merchants, who will be asking for immediate midday wires, or they will get you out of trades. A lot of trades, a lot of people who didn't have enough money, like you go to bed, you say, I got tons of money in my account, what could go wrong? And you get into like what happened when crude oil went negative, where people thought they were buying something at zero and it went to negative 39. One nice thing, and this is odd to say, about crude oil going to negative, whatever it was, 37, 38, 39, is I can look in this camera with 100% certainty and say, I have no idea where markets are going, but they can go further than you think. It's Adult Swim only. They're going to have continued breaking news. It's actually really calm out. Doesn't surprise me at all to see grains rally. If you do get that explosion in grains, get ready to be a hedger, because harvest is 30, 60, 90 days away for many of you. Anything else you want to? I'll let you finish it. I got to find the close button. You just keep talking.
Yeah. So wrapping up, my gosh, Joe is just shaking his head. He can't stand. Might be the longest show ever.
Oh, it's by sure the longest. But we got 225 people watching. Let's give away a flag real quick. If you're out there in the world. Info at ATI Pro Media. 2 free flags today. And I'll tell you this, bonus edition, 1-855-737-FARM. If the markets really have a bad day, I'll probably go live again here, and we'll have a lot of great financial commentary here on the show. You can catch me on Cow Guy at 1:10 today. You'll catch me maybe on Cow Guy tomorrow unless they pull me. I will be hosting Cow Guy Close, RFD TV, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Look for Connor and Brady to take the lead as I have to write my monologue. And anyone who knows me knows that takes a little time. We want to thank our sponsors, Grammarly, and all the other correction services that help me with writing. All right, Connor B., Assumption, Illinois. Tommy Grisafi, Valparaiso, Indiana. Breaking news edition, markets in turmoil, aka our style. We'll see you all tomorrow.
Thanks for joining us. We're here every day, 9 a.m. Central. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.